Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Amy, we're bringing in a best of this week.
This interview with Casey Davis, she really reset things for both of us in a very important way. She says in this episode that where we find relaxation is not the same places, that some people actually find relaxation and joy from keeping their house neat and perfect and tidy, and some do not. And so that she's uninterested in messy's better than neat, neat is better than messy, that the better than is the part that has to go away. Love that idea.
Agree. My word of the year, which you know is morally neutral.
Oh, yes.
I come up with a phrase of the year every year. It's something that Casey talks a lot about, and I keep saying it now, and I'm surely becoming annoying to my friends and relations. The freedom of the idea that certain things are morally neutral. You layer on judgments about things in a way that is detrimental to yourself, so that making your bed is good and productive and shame-free, and not making your bed is lazy and bad and terrible. Taking the shame and moral judgment out of what she refers to as care tasks. I am a person who gets exactly zero joy from cleaning, but there's a tremendous amount of shame in the fact that my house is not always neat and tidy. And as we step over blankets and detritus throughout my house, I'm like, I am wounding myself and my children for life, because a real mom would always have a clean house.
Or worse than that the blankets and the detritus and the unmade bed are there to judge you. That dirty dish is looking at you like, boy, oh boy.
Another bad day for you, Margaret. Another day as a loser.
It turns out that that's not the case.
No, the judgment is only coming from me. The plate is like the moon reflecting the light of the sun. The dirty plate is only reflecting my own judgment on myself, Amy.
Since we aired this episode, Casey has started her own podcast called Struggle Care that we've also talked about on the show. Subscribe to that if you don't. She's amazing. But this episode, I think, is particularly amazing because we explore our own relationships to mess and tidiness and struggle and care tasks with her.
And it's one of those episodes where you and I have very different starting points. You are a neat, orderly person in general, I would say, and I am much more of a messy, chaotic person. We do come at it from such different points of view, and both of us had a lot to take away from it, even though our approach to housekeeping is, to say the least, not the same.
Enjoy this fresh take with Casey Davis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, laughing in the face of motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And today we're talking to Casey Davis. She's the creator of the mental health platform Struggle Care, where she shares a revolutionary approach to self and home care for those dealing with mental health, physical illness, and hard seasons of life. Casey began her mental health journey at 16 when she entered treatment for drug addiction and mental health issues. She has since become a licensed professional therapist, an author, a speaker, an advocate for mental health and recovery. Casey's TikTok account, Domestic Blisters, you've probably seen that because it has over 1 million followers. And her brand new book is How to Keep House While Drowning, a gentle approach to cleaning and organizing. Welcome, Casey.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks so much for coming on. I loved this book. This is like, I had the highlighter out, and in the intro, we talk about it being gentle for people in seasons and struggle, but it's also gentle for people like me who are just really struggle in this area of your life every day, which is just, I am a messy person and my house is often a mess, and I feel a lot of shame around that. And I really enjoyed your viewpoint. You talk about housekeeping as care tasks. So can you bring us in by talking about the distinction between those two things?
Yeah. So when I started making content and writing in this space, the intersection of mental health and housekeeping, for lack of a better term right now, one of the first things that I did was start to change the language that I was using around those terms. So instead of saying things like chores or housekeeping, I began to refer to them as care tasks. And that kind of helps us recenter like what we're doing, because for so many women, especially those of us who were socialized as women and present as women, we really tend to internalize our worthiness with how we're able to keep house, particularly as mothers.
Yes.
And so housekeeping becomes this kind of performative action where it's the measure by which we're doing good enough. And that creates this coin and tends to put people on one side or the other. And that's why I say it's like two sides of the same coin. Either we end up sort of exhausting ourselves trying to keep everything perfect, and we're sort of run by this shame that we know we'll feel if we let things get quote unquote out of hand.
Yes.
And so we never stop. We never rest. We have anxiety. We're kind of irritable and fighting at people. And we're constantly sort of at odds with the people in our family because they're messing up the space, right? And we're trying to keep the space looking like a magazine cover because somewhere we got the message that is integral to whether we're fulfilling our role in our family.
Mm-hmm. I think that's right. You said we internalize it, but we also externalize it, right? Like I go to other people's house and I'm like, oh, look at this perfect person. They must be a better person than me on some fundamental level.
And then the other side of that coin is that same message, that same internalizing, externalizing, except on that side is someone who looks at the enormity of the tasks and just gets so overwhelmed that they don't even want to start. And so I call this sort of the underfunctioning, overfunctioning.
Yes.
Which is, okay, my house isn't working for me and I'm so overwhelmed by what it would take to get it under control that I just have sort of thrown up my hands. This is someone who maybe is struggling with mental health issues or ADHD, or, you know, they just feel like everything is so just overwhelming.
Yes.
That they just go, you know, I don't even want to start.
It's not possible.
This was a real aha moment for me, Casey, reading this book, because, I mean, I think we all struggle with mess and the sort of unendingness of it all. But I probably find it easier to keep my home neat. And I look at my mother-in-law, whose house is always spotless, but she finds relaxation and joy in keeping a perfect house. You know, she hums while she wipes her counters. She finds relaxation in that. And you talk in the book about you have a friend whose house is always perfect, but she can't get her act together for her business. And you've got all the time in the world for your business, but your kitchen's a mess. And that it's not better or worse. It's where we find relaxation is not necessarily the same places.
Yeah. And I say a lot in, you know, I think I mentioned it in my book, but I say a lot, especially in my social channels, that sometimes there's so much pressure to be perfect and have everything look a certain way that there sort of arises this backlash content where we say, actually, messy is good. Actually, this is real life. Actually, people who clean their houses all the time and have perfect houses, they ignore their children. And I like to sort of avoid that pitfall because the truth is that there are people that can keep a very neat and tidy home, and that brings them peace and joy. And they're able to do that while being engaged with their family, while being present for those fun moments. Like in the book, I talk about my friend says, you know, I just kind of float around.
Yeah.
I just kind of float around my house, you know, engaging my family, picking up a little here, making a meal, doing a little laundry. And, you know, that works for them. And then there are people that are messy to the hill that would also say, I'm happy.
Right.
I'm happy. My house functions. I'm here present with my family. We'll deal with the paint on the walls later. And you could say the same thing and just sort of cock it to the other side and go, there are also people keeping a museum worthy house that can only do so out of anxiety,
right?
That are not present with their families, that do have families begging them, just sit down and watch a movie with us, but they can't stay still. And there are people whose homes are messy and unfunctioning that are in a lot of distress.
Right.
And so I always say, like, this isn't about whether having a messy house or a clean house is superior. That's antithetical to my whole message. My point is it's morally neutral. It doesn't have this generalized connection to whether you're quote unquote doing good or doing bad. It might be the case for certain individual people, but the reality is I don't care whether your home is clean or messy. I care if you're in pain. I care if you're in distress.
I recently, that really stuck out to me in the book. And I recently heard this phrase morally neutral in another context. And it has been one of the most useful phrases that has been introduced to my adult life. I have some OCD tendencies. I like to touch things and keep things in order in my mind by counting, bytes in fours and, some OCD behavior. And I was speaking to a mental health professional about this. And she said, because I was like, it's crazy, the stuff I do, it's really nutty and it's crazy. And I was bringing all my shame about it to her. And she said to me, everything you're doing is completely morally neutral. If it helps you to count bytes and tens or to touch the doorway as you leave to help you feel safe, that's a morally neutral activity. And when I read it in the book, I realized I bring a lot of that same thing to housekeeping, that I'm good when my house is ordered and neat and everyone comes over and oohs and ahs about how clean it is. But I'm bad when it's a mess and someone stops by and they see 8 coats on the floor. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by morally neutral?
So what I mean by morally neutral is that a thing is not good, bad, right, or wrong in and of itself. That your participation in it doesn't make you morally superior. Your struggle with it does not make you morally inferior. So if we take cleaning, for example, someone who finds cleaning very easy, someone who is often motivated to clean, someone who has the time and energy and the bodily ability to clean in such a way that keeps all of their house clean, that person is not of better character than someone who either doesn't like to clean or struggles to clean or doesn't have the bodily or mental capacity to clean. And I think when we recognize that, it allows us to step back and say, who am I really doing this for? Am I doing this because I feel shame when it's not done and I feel like I'm worthy when it is done? Or am I seeing these as care tasks, just as things to do to care for me? And the big slogan of my platform is that you don't exist to serve your space exists to serve you.
Right. What does that mean?
That's the paradigm shift we're trying to make. Because if I'm running around and I see my home as needing to be governed by these rules, right? Laundry has to be done a certain way. Dishes should be done a certain way. The house should always look a certain way. And I'm basically just this little ping pong ball, or like the pinball machines. And I'm just constantly running around because care tasks aren't done in this binary. They're done or they're not done. They're cycles.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of constantly be turning these cycles. I always use dishes, for example. Dishes aren't done or not done. Dishes actually have 5 different stages in the life cycle of a dish. A dish is in your cabinet, ready to be used. A dish is out and being used or has just been used. A dish is maybe by the sink waiting to be cleaned. A dish is being cleaned. And a dish is waiting to be put away. And he's allowed to be in any of those stages. There's not a stage that a dish exists in that means that you're doing well.
Right.
It sounds funny.
Yeah, when they exist in that stage, you're not.
Right.
But we really actually do this in our mind. It sounds ridiculous, but it's so true that we're the dish on the table is a bad dish from a bad person.
Yes.
We're anthropomorphizing a dish.
Yes. Dishes don't judge. And the point of your space is to care for you. So instead of looking at that as I'm not allowed to leave any dishes out and the only acceptable places for a dish to be is maybe in the dishwasher or in the cabinet. If you see all of those phases just as morally neutral, then my job becomes to sort of turn the wheel in such a way that number one, produces clean dishes, and number two, allows me to enjoy my life. Those are the two goals, right? And so when those are the only two goals, then I can kind of go, well, okay, so if I'm experiencing some barriers to turning that cycle in the quote unquote normal way, in what ways can I get creative or out of the box to create a dish system that works for me? And I did this in really small steps for me. So the first thing I said was, I have a tendency to leave dishes everywhere. Like, there are literally 2 cups on this counter from...
We see them right now, people.
You can't see Casey, but she's holding up 2, I believe, dirty dishes.
Oh, yeah, they're dirty. One of them has a smoothie in it. So that's going to start smelling really good.
Yes. It's going to calcify too.
But the first thing that I was like, okay, when I'm done with the dish, do my best to just bring it to the sink. That's it. That's the only thing I'm asking of myself. And that actually increased my level of functioning because things weren't getting left out as much. And after I did that for a while and it became automatic, I thought, well, but here's what's frustrating is that I'm finding that whenever I get a lot of dishes in my sink, I don't have access to my sink and it makes it harder to clean things. It makes it harder to cook. And so then I started stacking them up on the side. And then after a while, I was walking through an IKEA and I saw this dish rack. And I have a dishwasher, so I've never used a dish rack. And I saw it and I just had this sort of idea of, one of the things that's always really helped me when I felt overwhelmed by dishes was like organizing my dirty dishes before I started to clean them. And I realized that if I were to get this dish rack and I were to sort of instruct my whole family, like, hey, when you're done with a dish, you don't have to clean it. You don't have to put it in the dishwasher. You don't have to do any of this. Just come and put it on the rack. And so as we go throughout the day, we put our dirty dishes on this rack. And so what happens is at the end of the day, they're organized. Because I realized that my barrier to dishes was feeling overwhelmed at all of them down in the sink. And if I organized them, I didn't feel overwhelmed. And so now at the end of the day, I'm not really procrastinating as much putting those dishes up because, well, there they are. They're laid out. It doesn't look like it's so much anymore. And I actually bought a second silverware caddy. Like I looked up the brand of my dishwasher and I got a silverware caddy because the other barrier for me is I hate to unload the dishwasher. I procrastinate it. But then of course that's the stopgap. Right. That's the bottleneck that gets everything all up. And so I put this second caddy on the side of the dish because I also realized that when it came to do the dishes, what I was hating was sticking my hands into that gross water and having to fish out the silverware.
Oh, yes.
So now when we're done with dishes, we put the dirty dish in the rack and we put the silverware straight into the extra caddy so that when it comes time at night to do what I call my closing duties, I unload the dishwasher and then I can literally just switch the caddies out.
Wow.
And then I'm not overwhelmed by the organized dirty dishes to stick them straight into the washer. And this is something that I never would have come up with had I believed that my job was to work for my space, because dishes have rules. You don't put dirty dishes on a rack. Dirty dishes are wrong. Look at what a mess this is. When I realized that the only purpose of dishes is to serve me and my family and create clean dishes for us, then I could kind of go, my barrier is I don't like to unload the dishwasher. I feel overwhelmed with a lot of dishes in the sink, and I don't like to get my hands gross to go for the silverware. And instead of judging those barriers, like I'm not allowed to have those, or I shouldn't have them, or I should just push past it, I should just figure it out. What if I just took a step back and went, okay, that's the barrier. What if I just pretended that was a legitimate barrier? What if that was as legitimate as I've broken my arm? Is there a way I can create a ritual or a routine that just circumvents that hard stuck part for me? Sometimes there's not, and I have to find ways to sort of push through. But as human beings, we have a limited amount of push through. Like I've got like 10 push through points a day, right? And there are more important things that I'm going to have to just like grit my teeth and push through. So anything that I can eliminate needing to use those points on is going to increase my functioning, my satisfaction of my life. And in our house, remaining a calm and respectful parent I need to save the majority of my push through points for that, because I'm trying to do the work. I go to therapy, I do these things, but the reality is sometimes I just have to bite my tongue and walk away in order to not scream or be mean as a parent.
I want to put a fine point on that. We are talking to Casey Davis, the author of How to Keep House While Drowning, and we're going to be right back.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
Our dishwasher broke recently, and so we've been having we've basically fallen into complete chaos. We're basically like, the sun has gone out. Like, we do not know how to function without a dishwasher. And this idea of like the dishes are piling up, and therefore the story just starts to percolate in your mind of like, we can't function. Everything's out of control. We have lost control. And it's just like, what if you were able to break it down? And one of the things we finally did was move to compostable plates, because we're just like, oh, we can actually solve this another way without dishes becoming completely overwhelming. Another thing that I love that you talk about in the book is being kind to your future self, because it's not, when I picked up the book, I thought it was going to be like, let it go. It's fine. Don't worry so much about it. And it's really not. It's like, here's a practical way to get some of this done. So talk to us a little bit about being kind to your future self.
So I always thought about doing things around my house almost as like punishment for having lived there. Like,
correct. That is so well said.
Like, okay, yeah, that was nice that my kids and I got all the paints out and painted butterflies to decorate for spring. Or that was really nice that I let them play in the sand. Or that was really nice that we had this big, nice dinner. But now I have to pick up after.
It's time to pay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so everything was picking up after ourselves, cleaning up after ourselves. And it was like the reward and the payout already happened. And it's so much harder to then sort of rally to clean because everything is after. And it also put me in this reactive state of, something happens and now I have to do this, or we have to do this. So that was part of it. And then the other part of it was, there were times where I'd be sitting there and I'd be staring at the dishes in the sink and I'd think, ugh, I'm going to hate myself tomorrow if I don't do that.
Yeah. Shame as motivator.
And it was just this, like, I feel shame at looking at those dishes. And so I'm going to let that shame just sort of like berate me until I move into action. And I had this moment for a long time. My husband would wake up really early on Sunday mornings. And this is what I talk about in the book, and wake up with our kids so that I could sleep in. And even though I would struggle most of the nights to get care tasks done, for some reason, when it came to Saturday night, I always found myself being like, well, you know what? I don't like doing dishes, but I know how frustrating it is to wake up with the kids and not be able to find like the cups for their milk, and like having to like go under the couch and get like the curdled one. And then you're like furiously hand washing in the hottest water you can find while they cry. And so I would think, I don't want him to go through that. So I'll make sure that I at least load up the milk cups into the dishwasher, and I'll make sure that he has enough, counter space to make breakfast. And I realized that I was doing these things out of a motivation of kindness towards him, because I love him and I appreciate everything he does, and because I want to relieve some stress from him. And it just kind of hit me one night as I was doing this. Why is it that my attitude towards my husband, setting up the area for success for him, was from a place of kindness, but when it came to setting up the area for success for myself, it was from a place of shame and obligation and, almost berating myself for having lived there. And what's funny is that I find the motivation of kindness so much more motivating. And so I started realizing, what if I were to think that way about myself? Doing a few things in the evening to sort of shut down the kitchen as a way of being kind to morning me. And I called them closing duties because I used to work in a restaurant.
I was going to say, that's waitress terminology right there.
It is. And everyone who's worked in a restaurant has had the experience of coming in the morning, ready to go, and things aren't set up for you. And you're like,
who closed last night?
Yep. And so I found myself, it's like the same thing. Like I would wake up in the morning and I'd look around and I'd be like, who closed last night? And then I'd be like, oh, I did.
It was me.
And so this idea of, what if I were to think of doing things in the evening as a kindness to morning me? Because I'm the opener and I deserve to be set up for success. I deserve to function in my own space. And so I started calling them closing duties, because that almost took the morality out of it, because I would think about, well, I never had trouble doing my closing duties at work.
Right. You can want to do them or not want to do them. You had to do them before you could go home.
And you just did them. But why is it that it's so much harder for me to do things like that at home? And so I started sort of unpacking that. And part of it was the terminology. It was the closing duties feels morally neutral. Cleaning your kitchen feels like an obligation and a duty. And if you don't do it, you're bad. And then the second part was that closing duties was finite. There's only, a list of 5 things that you had to do and then you were done. Whereas cleaning my kitchen or picking up the playroom or cleaning my house felt infinite. Like you could clean for 6 hours and probably could still find more things to clean in your kitchen.
16 hours. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And then the third part was this idea that you end up sort of doing them quickly because you want to go home afterwards. Mm-hmm. You clock out afterwards. And so I started doing this. I started thinking, okay, what are the things that I absolutely need first thing in the morning to function? Because I actually don't need the crumbs vacuumed up from the stove to function first thing in the morning. I just really need like a clean trash can, like a new bag. I need enough dishes to do breakfast. I need enough counter space to safely prepare food. And I need to be mentally stable. So I need to take my medication. And then I just made this list of like 5 things. If I did these 4 or 5 things in the evening, I'd be set up for success here. And I started doing them. My husband would put our kids to bed at like 7:30. And while he was doing that, I would start doing these closing duties. And it only took me about 25 to 30 minutes. And I'm finishing at 7:30 and I'm clocking out. So it doesn't matter if the playroom's a mess, if the laundry's not done, if this is that and the other. When I finish my closing duties, I clock out as a mom. I don't get more things. I don't clean more things. I don't do more things. I use the rest of the evening to rest, to recreate, to have fun with my husband, to watch TV, to do something that I like to do. And so it was this like all in one whammy where I was reclaiming some adult time and some adult identity. I was having this time to be who I was as a person outside of my role as caretaker in my family. I was being kind to my future self and setting myself up for success. I was allowing myself to have less stress in the morning. And all of this started with one task. Like I didn't jump right to 5 things. It started with one task, which was to unload and reload my dishwasher at 7:00 every evening. And even if I ate afterwards, like I would frequently do my closing duties and then make dinner for me and my husband. And then dinner dishes would wait until the next night at 7:00. I was that like, I wasn't rigid like I had to be, but it was like that. I felt like, no, I actually do get to clock out at 7:30. And if you eat a bowl of cereal at 7:35, it goes on the dirty dish rack and it waits until tomorrow.
And I think it's so mentally important. I was just doing an episode about kids' bedtimes. And I said, for me, I don't really care when your kid goes to bed, but I knew that if I didn't know when my kid was going to bed, the night could go to 11 o'clock. Like, I need to know my clock out time. I think that's right. And I love that idea of closing duties because it's your clock out time.
Can you tell us a little bit about the 5 things tidying method? I love this because
I wrote it on a Post-it and I put it on my wall. I mean, this is a game changer, folks. Listen up.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
So this is how I tidy any space because I get overwhelmed very easily. And I first want to explain like why that's overwhelming for me, because I think a lot of people can relate and it helps sort of elucidate how powerful the 5 things are. So when I look at a space that's really, really messy, really, really cluttered, and I think, oh my God, there are 1,000 things here. So I have ADHD. I had some postpartum depression, and both of those things really affect what we refer to as executive functioning. Mm-hmm. It's the part of your brain that's responsible for time management, working memory, prioritization, task initiation, sequencing and ordering tasks. And there are lots of other things that can do that too, including sleep deprivation and stress. So chances are almost everybody listening has at least having periods of their time when their executive functioning is sort of struggling.
Not so good.
And so I would look at this, oh my gosh, there's a million things. And I'd be like, I'd make myself do it. And it would feel like that it was all of a sudden I become 1,000 pounds heavier. And I go and I make myself pick up a thing, and I pick up the thing. So first I had to make a decision to pick something up. What do I pick up first? I don't know. Just okay, I've now made a decision. Now I'm holding this thing and I have to look at it and I have to decide what this thing is. So, information has to travel through my eyes into my brain and go, oh, this is a book. Then I have to go, where does this book go? And if this book has a place to go, I then have to walk to that place, which might be out of the room.
Oh, good
put
luck.
that place up. And then I might see something on the way that also needs to be done and get distracted. And then I have to decide, am I going to keep going? Am I going to do that thing? What should I do? I've already made about 15 decisions and I'm in like major decision fatigue, right? So, and God help us if it doesn't have a place, because then I'm going to stare at it and go, where do I put this? And I'm going to go, well, maybe I could put it in this closet. And I open the closet and it's a mess. And I go, well, maybe I should reorganize the closet first. Well, in order to do that, I really should decide which of these coats fit and which don't. So I start trying on coats, right? So I'm not moving very fast. I'm not seeing a lot of progress. So I want to quit the whole time. I don't feel like I have a roadmap. I'm having major decision fatigue. So here's what I started doing that really, really helps this. When I see the 1,000 things, I tell myself there are not 1,000 things in here. There are only 5 things in any room. There are trash, dishes, laundry, things that have a place that are not in the place, and things that don't have a place. And I start category by category in whatever room I'm in, and I don't leave that room. So before I even go into the room, I go get a trash bag and a laundry basket and maybe an extra basket, right? And I get my trash bag and I walk around and I just look for trash. And it almost makes me feel like those video games, like where you're a drone and it's like
night vision goggles.
Terminator, yeah.
Yes, and it's like locking in. So I'm automating this process. There are really no decisions being made except, is this trash? Is this trash? Is this trash? And I'm throwing things away in the bag that I'm holding. So I'm not even walking back and forth to the trash can. So I'm going trash, 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 trash. And while I'm doing that, I fill up the trash bag and then I just set it down in the room. And then I get my dishes and I start picking up my dishes and putting them in the sink. You could even put them into a bus tub or something like that if you're in a different room. And I don't do the dishes. I just get them down. And then I get my laundry basket and I put all of the laundry and maybe shoes too into that laundry basket and I put that down. And now I kind of even take it smaller. So then maybe I'll walk up to my desk. And once you've removed trash, dishes, and laundry, the only things left on that desk are items that need to be put away. And some of those items have a place. And so I start there, picking up anything that has a place and just putting it back immediately because there's no thinking involved there. And then I end up with a pile of things that don't have a place. And I just leave that pile there and move on to the next space. Okay, here's this bookcase. Here's this one corner of the room. In the end, what I've done is in a very, very quick manner, made the space very livable. I've given myself multiple little finish lines that feel good and rewarding and productive to cross. And I'm left with this pile of things that need a place. This is the real things that I have to think about, that are frustrating, that get me easily distracted. And some days I just choose to put those things in a basket and set it to the side and be done and go on with my life. And some things I go, okay, let's put on a Netflix show and sit down and really start to figure out can I get rid of? What can I sort of purge? What can I find a permanent space for? And so this is the way that I go about tidying up. And it's really shortened the time. The other thing I love about it is that I've heard so many people that struggle with care tasks talk about that struggle originating in childhood, when their parents would yell at them about a messy room and, close the door and go clean this up or else. And they're sitting in their room and they're looking around and they don't know what to do. I mean, we assume that tidying up is so intuitive, but here's a child looking around and they're overwhelmed and they don't know how to start and nobody has showed them. So they don't know how. And I'll never forget the time that my daughter took all of the diapers out of her diaper bin and they were spread all around. And I got really frustrated. And I said, put the diapers back. And she said, I can't. And I was like, yes, you heard, right? So we get into this argument because she's saying, I can't. And she even starts crying. And I'm thinking like, yes, you physically can pick these diapers up and put them away. And we go back and forth until she finally bursts into tears and says, but there's too many. I can't hold them all. And I realized that what she thought I was saying was pick them all up at once and put them into this bin. Like kids are so literal and kids don't have the same kind of flexible thinking and problem solving. So that because that seemed like the only way to do it, and she didn't feel like she could do that, she felt like she couldn't do it at all, which is funny because that's honestly what we do, right?
Right.
And so I realized she's not unwilling. She's just overwhelmed.
And we are too.
Yes. And I said, baby, you don't have to pick them all up at once. Pick up one diaper. And so I broke it down to these tiny steps. I said, pick up one diaper. And she picked up one diaper. And I said, put it in the bin. And she put it in the bin. I said, now pick up one more diaper. I literally had to walk her through it like that. She went, oh, like in that little 2-year-old voice, right? And put them all in. Actually, she might have been 3 at the time. And so a lot of people actually have these childhood experiences. And one of the great gifts of the 5 things tidying method is that my children understand it. Mm-hmm. So the other day I began picking up and my daughter says, can I help? Which, if we're all being honest with ourselves, when they're very, very small, their help is not actually help. And there's something about that phrase that just like sets off alarm bells because number one, we feel like we have to say yes. Like it'd just be like such a bad mom move to be like, no. But number two, we know that we're just like, oh, okay. You just like doubled your workload because you have to like do what you were doing and like teach someone how to do it, include them how to do it. And like probably they're going to make it take longer.
When we come back, we're going to talk about including kids in the 5 things method. We're talking to Casey Davis.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Okay, we're back. And Casey, one of the positives of the 5 things method, as we were talking about before the break, is that this is a way you can introduce kids to helping clean. Talk a little bit about that for us.
So it's a lot easier for children to understand like one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And first of all, I want to say it's totally valid to sometimes say no to kids when they ask if they can help. Like, we're really not like morally obligated to say yes every single time. As important as it is for me to include my child and my children into care tasks and show them how it's done, it's equally as important that I be modeling what boundaries look like. And what showing up authentically looks like. Because how many of us would say, oh, we're pretty good at serving others, but we're not really good at saying no.
Right.
So I actually want my daughter to see me go, actually, I'm too frustrated to do this genuinely right now. Actually, I'm a little bit in a headspace where mommy just needs to feel productive. So I love you, but no, I would prefer you go play while I do this. And having that good balance.
That's right. Because we hear from people all the time like, oh, well, have your kids clean up and have them do it. I think that's a really interesting pushback that it doesn't always have to be.
But I'm going to take the other side of that. Like, we had Michaeline Duclef on the show, and she makes the argument, which I think is valid, that a 2-year-old really wants to help and participate, and an 8-year-old doesn't. And it's a pain in the tush to have the 2-year-old help. But if you want an 8-year-old who knows how to help, then you have a 2-year-old, you get them involved while they can. But it's also, I would agree, totally valid that it is often much easier to do it without them.
But here's why I'm so excited, because that is true. But here's the counterintuitive place to make that true. In order for me to say yes with enthusiasm, I have to say no with confidence.
Okay.
So if I feel obligated to say yes every single time my kid wants to help, I'm going to be doing that from this sort of lackluster, okay, and then I'm going to get impatient, and then I'm going to be frustrated. And so for me, what I have found is that I have to model both an enthusiastic yes and a confident no. And that if I'm finding myself not able to say the enthusiastic yes, what that tells me isn't that I need to try harder to be the nice mommy. It's actually a check-in for me that maybe I'm not saying no enough. I'm not taking care of myself enough. And so I need to be able to be saying no with confidence, because they can pick up on that anxiety when you're like, I'm sorry, honey. Sometimes I do. Instead of going, you know what, sweetheart, no, thank you today. So that tomorrow when you ask, because first of all, you don't want to pick up on that anxiety because they want to know it's perfectly okay to ask. So tomorrow when she asks, I can go, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it together.
Right. Because tomorrow you have the bandwidth to do the lesson on the diapers. It's not every time.
But what happens then when you have an 8 or 10-year-old who is no longer, can I please help you clean the kitchen? When they stop asking and you want buy-in, how does this 5 things method sort of, is there a family expectation that everybody participates?
At an age-appropriate level, I think.
Yeah. So what does that look like?
So I think for the reason with the 5 things tidying method, because even at the age of 8, you still don't have the brain formulation to sort of figure out this process by yourself. So, but I can tell a child, we're going to pick up all the trash. Everyone go find the trash, right? Or you can put on a song and say, for this song, we're finding the trash. You can go, we're all going to race, and whoever gets, the biggest amount of trash items. And, okay, now we're going to do, so walking them through that process, category by category by category, children can grasp that. Children can get into that. Don't feel overwhelmed. And the other part is that my child wants to do things with me. And if I capitalize on that at this age, then she will begin to associate doing things with mom as having that quality time with mom, which is why it's so important to me that I preserve that as a time when I can be patient and engaged. And I don't play a lot. I'm not a mom that plays pretend. I don't really play with toys. I dislike it. I'm not good at it. And I find that I interrupt what would naturally be unfolding in their play. And so I'm not a mom that plays pretend. I will sit with you. I will watch. I will ask questions about your play. And instead, I try to funnel those really important, connective, playful moments into the care tasks that we're doing about our day. So as we are making dinner together, as we are sitting and eating together, as I'm cleaning and we're talking so that my kid isn't having this experience of playtime is fun, but when mom makes us clean up, that's the real drag. Mm. Because that, I think, can make this impression of you are an 8, a 10, an 11-year-old, and you have that aspect of fun is fun, and then we clean up after ourselves, as opposed to trying, and I don't do this perfectly by any means, but this is sort of my value, is that playing is fun, and cleaning may not be as fun, but it's not this like burdensome, this is when mom gets angry and starts throwing things. Because I don't want to imprint this anxiety around cleaning with my kids. And I also want to say that, for the first probably 3 years of my youngest lives, I didn't ask my kids to do anything. And there were times when I would feel this shame because people would say like, well, you should be teaching your kids to clean up after you. But the reality is like when it was a pandemic, I had just had a baby. I was overwhelmed. I had undiagnosed ADHD and postpartum depression. And it was already a lot to try and just keep our home functioning without the added burden of, and I'm a crappy mom because I'm not teaching them how to do this. And realizing that just because I'm not teaching them right now doesn't mean I'm never going to teach them in their whole life, right?
Yep.
Just because in this postpartum period or even in this year, I'm not teaching them doesn't mean I can't teach them next year when I'm in a different place.
And one thing I want to underline, because it made so much sense to me in a kind of, I can't believe I haven't thought of this before way, is that my kids are now 13, 12, and 10. And I often say, you guys clean the living room. I'm going in to work on the dishes. And then I come back out and it's still messy and they're sitting back around. I'm like, I told you to clean in here. But if I broke it down to 5 steps where I went in and I said, okay, while I'm doing the dishes, I want you to pick up every piece of trash. Then I can come in and say, uh-oh, I see 2 pieces of trash that aren't done. Okay, let's do that. Then I come back and I say, okay, anything that's laundry, there's a basket in the corner. That breaking it down, it's not that it makes it, because I'm wary about being like, because it makes it fun. It doesn't make it fun. It makes it functional, though.
It makes it doable.
It makes it doable, which to me, that's the chasm that I'm often, even though I've had my kids helping clean up since they were little, this is a chasm we have trouble crossing. This is a great solution.
And the other thing that I did, especially for my kids because they're really young, is when we talked about that idea of play is play and then there's cleaning up after ourselves, I don't make my kids clean up at the end of the day. I don't make them clean up a mess right after they make it. I actually, especially for really little kids, I flipped it. You can play and make a mess all day long. I actually will wait until there is a functional reason that they will be able to internalize.
Give us an example of that.
So I let my kids be as messy as possible. And then my kid will trip or she'll step on a Lego. Or she won't be able to find something.
Right. She'll be looking for the costume. She can't find it. It's in the mess. Yeah.
And that's when I take the opportunity to come in and go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. There's a lot of Legos around here. Before we play this game, let's get up all of our Legos so we're not stepping on them. So I'm connecting the functionality and the care of self directly to this task. And small children don't have what we call delayed gratification. So the idea of clean up the room tonight so that tomorrow it'll be fun, they can't really put that together. So I'm really shortening that gratification of, yeah, we'll play a game in about 10 minutes, but let's pick this up because you just hurt yourself. And I want that to be their internal sense. And that may not pay off immediately. And I always say that, if I raise a kid that never cleans their room in 18 years, but then when they hit 26 and realize it matters to them to have a functional environment, has the skills to do so, and an uncomplicated relationship with care tasks to be able to carry it out, I've succeeded. If I raise a kid that cleans their room every single day till the day they're 18, but then leaves and doesn't ever do it again because they don't really know how to do it from their own sense of motivation and they don't have the skills to break it down, that to me isn't success. And I'm not saying it has to be one or the other.
Right.
But I'm just using the extremes to sort of do that. And so putting that before allowing them to have some consequences. Okay, you left the cap off that marker. Oh, yeah, seems like it's dried up. And then I create some boundaries around that. So like outside, I got tired of telling my kids, don't take the sand out of the sandbox, because I was feeling this anxiety of I'm going to have to buy more sand. Right. Or I don't want it tracked in. So what I started doing was telling them, you know what, like it actually is important for their development to have like a yes space where they can do whatever they want. They're getting so creative with the sand. So I started telling them, all right, here's the deal, babe. I will refill your sandbox twice a year. I will do that for you. Only twice a year. I'm not going to spend, $30 every month to refill it. So you need to start thinking about, if you want to take all that sand out of the sandbox and not return any of it and spread it all over the yard, and then you're going to have an empty sandbox. And even though they're really little and they're not going to be able to necessarily pace themselves, they're going to experience that result of, oh, I don't have any sand now. And I'm going to tell them it's not a punishment. It's just a matter of fact, like, yeah.
Right. It's just a natural consequence of your behavior.
Yeah. And little by little, that will allow them to begin to think about, well, I really want this sand, because I want my kids thinking about the functionality of their space and their enjoyment and their care, not just thinking about, am I following the rules? Will I get in trouble? Will mom be mad at me? Obviously, that's a part of it because we're human.
Sure.
But I really want to teach them. And I have to tell you, teaching them in this way does make for a messier house right now. It does make for more whining because they don't have sand. It does make for a little more work. And that's why I say, like, I'm not even telling you that this is a morally superior way to do it. Because if you're in a really tough spot and you're just in survival mode, like I was for 3 years, I wasn't doing any of this for 3 years because I just had different priorities. I had priorities of survival and kindness. And once I got a little more capacity, right now I'm in therapy, I'm on meds. I started working some, which really helps me with myself. I got better childcare. Now I have the capacity to think about some of these higher level things about how can I teach them to want to do, tasks. We always have to prioritize what we need to do in our seasons.
And friends, this book is chock full. There are so many great tips. Casey, tell us where we can find the book and where we can find you.
So I am at Domestic Blisters on TikTok. This is the channel that I post every day on.
It's fantastic, guys. I love your TikToks. They're great.
So good.
Thank you. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under Struggle Care. A good sort of centralized location is my website, which is strugglecare.com. From there, you can see all the places where my book is being offered, all of the different retailers. From there, you can link to my socials. You can check out my shop where I have some different workbooks. I have a care task template there for children that my kids use where they have little icons that they kind of move it when they're done, like a little baby closing list. You can get things like decluttering lists. I even have an online course for cleaning out your depression house, which takes you step by step. So all those things are really on my website as a great sort of starting point, and some free resources for care tasks.
Fantastic. I can't say enough about this book, guys. I loved it. Check it out. And Casey, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.